The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live on Sky Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Now, you're welcome along, Football Show. We have lots to discuss, and just to say up front, if you notice a hint of me being passive-aggressive towards our next guest, or even just all-out aggressive, you're not mistaken, because Gavin Cooney, the 42, is going to Augusta.
How are you? Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I'm delighted, in fairness.
We're all delighted for you.
I think you're grinding your teeth there. Yeah, no, in fairness, yeah, got the opportunity through my fabulous employers. I should put that out there. So, yeah, can't wait. So it's, I've got a pretty cool week or two coming up because it's Ireland camp now, Latvia and then France, and then a couple of days off, and then head for the States.
Not bad at all. We'll talk about all that in due course. Maybe make an appearance on Golf Week, perhaps. To cast a brief glance back to the weekend that was, I would like to welcome Roy and Ray back to the club, said Steve Parish to a frankly disbelieving Crystal Palace fraternity. Ray Lewington back in. Roy Hodgson, 75 years old now. Hodgson back in. Watford, January to May of last year, relegated to the Championship. I think most of us thought, well, that's probably that, but not Steve Parish. So this is quite something.
Yeah, parish politics. I can't see beyond the man in front of you, which is Roy Hodgson back at Crystal Palace again to replace Patrick Vieira. I mean, we all praised, Steve Parish only 18 months ago having, they had Hodgson and they had a certain style of play, and look, it wasn't very exciting, but it would guarantee a Premier League. And then they made the brave move to appoint Patrick Vieira, and it went really well last season, FA Cup semi-finals, and played some great football in the league as well. And then at the first sign of trouble, ditch him and bring back Hodgson just for a kind of a stay in the Premier League card, which is, I've never seen such a neat distillation of panic and what panic and the potential loss of millions will do for you to go all the way back to back to Hodgson. Deeply uninspiring, I have to say. And plus, Parish is ignoring the fact that seemingly one of the rules in football is that Crystal Palace can lose as many games as they like and are not allowed fall beneath 12th in the Premier League. They do seem to have that kind of welfare floor there for you. So, happy days for Hodgson, I suppose, having back at 75. It now means, by the way, apparently, I saw it on Reddit, 25% of the Premier League managers now are former Watford managers. Good figure.
I would think even Roy Hodgson was a bit like, really? I'll do it.
Do you think he was surprised to get because he pitched up at Watford? I just trying to remember what I remember of Roy Hodgson's stint at Watford. I felt there's a lot of sunglasses wearing. Perhaps gratuitous sunglasses wearing, and I remember he spoke with an air of a man who was deeply confident that Watford were going to go down, and there's really nothing I can do here, lads, but Palace should be fine. I really feel that they acted very hastily in getting rid of Vieira. Obviously the form since the turn of the year had been very bad. They hadn't won a game all year. I think had they gone 2 or 3 games without a shot on target, so clearly weren't playing well, but they had a tough run of fixtures. And I don't think that they have any fixtures left against the top 8, if not the top 10.
A lot of teams around them.
And look, you don't have to do a whole lot to stay in the Premier League from here on. There's a lot of bad teams down there. And it's just because everything is so compressed. Usually you might find yourself clear danger. But if, Leeds vaulted to 14th place with a win at the weekend. So it only takes a couple of results to totally dispel the notion that you're in any danger of going down. So real, panicky decision from Palace and very uninspiring.
It would seem Daniel Levy is making a less panicky but very deliberate decision, according to reports as well, on Antonio Conte. Expected to be sacked is the general reporting right across the board. We had Kenny Cunningham in last night, and it was amazingly strong. He completely agreed with Conte. He said of Spurs for the last year and into some of last season, he hasn't come across a team that try less. He looks on at them and he thinks, frankly, they're a disgrace. They genuinely are not trying.
Really?
And he thinks he understands the Conte frustration. So he absolutely buys into this is a man at the end of his tether, nuclear option, boiling over in complete frustration, explanation of Conte's behaviour, as opposed to self-serving, I'm going to preserve my reputation. He thinks Spurs and their players are a disgrace, and he thinks, I totally understand how Conte erupted the way he did. And even on Kane, he said at the weekend and beyond, he's looking at Harry Kane make these fake attempts to press and, so I'm out of the game, sorry, you've knocked it by me. Bruno at Anfield style. And he says there's a danger if Manchester United buy him, they're buying Ronaldo Part 2 problem. His legs maybe have gone physically as well as just application. So it was really interesting. I had thought Kenny would be, well, you can't do that publicly.
Yeah.
This is not how things work. He was far more in the camp of, they are a disgrace.
I regret not hearing that now because I hadn't heard that elsewhere. Had he any other examples of them not trying?
Oh, take your pick.
Really? Why?
Yeah. And numerous.
Did he feel, again, I'm sorry I didn't hear this, but did he feel like that's going back to last season as well? Or is this, okay, because the results were pretty good last season.
No, he's
toward the end.
He has looked at them and thought there's something very odd about that dressing room for some time. And he's noted the numerous games where they go behind and that's a trigger, some way mid-second half for them to go, right, come on then. Let's try a leg. And he says they're obviously a very good team then because they've lots of good players.
But is that not the original sin of a manager? That he can't motivate them not to try?
Well,
and I know, like, in an ideal world that's not fair, but life's not fair, and football, it's always easier to get rid of one manager than a full dressing room. So, taking...
Oh, I think he understands how this is going to go. Yeah. He looks at Kane and, I mean, anyone else can listen back to it, but he does see a slightly self-serving senior pro in that dressing room. He thinks, Lloris, Son, quite self-contained, focused on his own performance.
Well,
Kane on his own performance.
I would agree on Kane because, like, Kane insisted on playing half fit in the Champions League final. He wasn't fit for that game, and it cost Spurs. It really did. Like, Liverpool started Firmino, who wasn't fit, but Klopp could at least take him off. Pochettino, obviously, Kane, you can't be subbing Kane off. He's like the Ronaldo. The Ronaldo comparison is a good one in the sense that you couldn't sub Ronaldo off, but obviously you can't sub Kane off. Sorry, I interrupted.
So he thinks like it's not that they're quote unquote bad pros, or that was the talk around Old Trafford for numerous years. The senior pros there weren't setting a good example. He doesn't think Harry Kane's a bad example per se, but he doesn't see him as a leader. Doesn't see Son as a leader. Doesn't see Lloris really as a leader. So he thinks
Lloris is captain of France. Like, that's
I know,
a bit harsh, I think.
Yeah, potentially is, but he thinks it's a funny dressing room.
Yeah,
and Conte's had his fill.
Maybe. I still don't think you can come out and say those things. I mean, it's his job to motivate the dressing room. Now, actually, Matt Doherty was doing press with Ireland today, and he was interesting when asked about Conte. He said that he really defended Conte and said one of the greatest ever managers. Hope he stays at Tottenham. But the most interesting line was he wouldn't say something to the press that he wouldn't say behind closed doors.
I had those quotes. I hope he stays at Spurs for a long time. He's an unbelievable coach, an unbelievable manager. He won't say anything in the press that he won't say to his players. He's completely honest with the players, has the passion for the whole club. For me, I hope Spurs stick by him, hold on to him for as long as possible. He is one of the best managers of all time. Two things. If ever a player might have felt aggrieved and quite happy to kick a manager when he's down, it would be Doherty and Conte. And secondly, Doherty was not afraid to go on 2FM and let everybody know just how little Roy Keane did.
Completely.
So his word here carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So now I'm firmly in Conte camp here.
Wow. Okay. Well, I was because when I heard Matt Doherty was doing press, I was really looking forward to him answering that question because you will get, like you say, an honest response. And he was treated very shabbily by Conte directly with those comments back last October. I'm not silly. I don't want to lose or something in reference to playing Doherty. And then he was treated terribly by the club. There was go on loan at the last day of the January transfer window, and then hang on, we actually have too many players out on loan, so we're just going to have to rip up your deal here, Matt. Sorry about that.
Look, there's the...
He really stood by him. And as I am now reading that line in a slightly different light, that he wouldn't say anything to the press that he isn't saying behind closed doors. I still think he shouldn't have said it at Conte.
Not if he wants to continue as manager. I mean, it's over now.
But he clearly doesn't want to continue as manager.
No.
And like, I know Conte has personally had a very difficult season with, he has been pretty significantly ill, and he's also had, is Gianpiero Ventrone at Spurs. He passed away. The fitness coach, Sinisa Mihajlovic and Gianluca Vialli, who's close with reportedly as well, all passed away. So that's like personal circumstances have been very difficult for the last few months. But I have to say, I thought those comments were a disgrace. You can't come out and slaughter your players like that in public. And it can't be so obviously self-serving, because it's of a piece. He's been critical of the players throughout his time there. Really has been critical of the supposed unrealistically high expectations of the supporters as well. And I really did feel like, is this the most obvious example we've ever had of a manager washing his hands of responsibility for something? And it's also, like, not to get too highfalutin about it, but it is like a new postmodern stage for football's banter era. Like, this is fully postmodern now, when the manager is quoting the memes used to insult Tottenham. This was, lads, it's Tottenham, or Chiellini, this is the history of the Tottenham. I think actually Conte's line was, the story of Tottenham is this, or something along those lines. And I understand, like, he's obviously extremely unpopular there now, because he does give the impression of hating Tottenham.
Yeah.
And I've always hated that. He's always, and in fairness, this is back from as soon as he began at Tottenham, Conte has cultivated this perception that I'm too big for here. No, he's not. Tottenham is a big, big job. You're in the Premier League, you're in London, you're in a massive new stadium now. Like, how many, like, you don't have the biggest budget in the Premier League, but you'll have a bigger budget than if he goes back to Serie A. I never got that idea that he was too good for Spurs.
His logic, and he said it at one stage, was, why should I protect them anymore?
Yeah.
Imagine you're Conte and you see a dressing room which is dishonest, which is basically what he's saying. They're a dishonest bunch. I'm paid a lot of money. 15 million.
Yeah.
I'm paid a lot of money. The players are paid a lot of money. He knows what it takes. He's seen what it takes. And he sees just a really selfish, dishonest bunch who are happy to swim downstream, immersed in lovely mediocrity. Why should he protect them? If that's his perspective.
Yeah, but like, I mean, you don't go out and you don't make your job untenable while you're doing it. Like, you still have your job at 50 million a year is to motivate these guys. And I don't think, in fairness, like, Kenny Cunningham's comments are making me kind of second guess myself a little bit, because I'd never heard someone with credibility say that before, as Kenny has.
He was surprisingly strong. Just this Matt Doherty, Kenny Cunningham, Antonio Conte triangle.
I know.
I'm in it. I'm in that triangle.
But I never would have thought that these are, in John Giles' phrase, bad pros. I'm really, really surprised at that perception. But obviously, it exists. Like, people with a lot more experience and knowledge of the game than me are saying it. So it's definitely worth sizing up. But I still have to say that Conte, he obviously was an emotional reaction. I also felt it was quite calculated and self-serving, and I really thought it was slightly nasty. I really thought the street to it, and there was just kind of this dismissive tone about it, and then using, like, he knows what he's doing when he's talking about this is the story of Tottenham. Like, he knows what he's echoing there. I thought that was nasty and gratuitous.
Well, it was reported that Daniel Levy almost was like, can we clarify what you mean by the same owner? To what extent am I the problem as well? And he said, no, it's about the players.
I know. And what's your impression of Conte speaking truth to power? Like, there will be a strain of supporter that will look at this and say he's dead right. In the way that people would look at Mourinho criticising the hierarchy latter days at Chelsea, at Manchester United, and elsewhere he's been saying he's dead right. Thank God someone is saying these things.
Yeah. Well, I think there probably is something culturally very wrong at Spurs, and we briefly glimpsed how good they could all be under Pochettino at their peak. There is something inexplicable about their up and down performances.
Are they really that up and down, though?
I think they are. I think when they're bad, they are atrocious.
They are. They've been atrocious this season at times under Conte.
And when they're good, they're excellent.
Yeah. What are they? I mean, they could still finish in the top four. Like, relative to their wage budget, they're actually doing pretty well. I don't get this. There is an impression that Spurs are like this kind of sad sack ace and like the perennial underachievers. But like, and I know Daniel Levy has made a lot of mistakes, and like there were massive strategic errors in not backing Pochettino at a point of strength, and then sacking him was a silly idea. Mourinho was the wrong appointment. I thought Conte was a good appointment. As it turned out, it hasn't worked out. But at the same time, obviously they could have spent more on transfers, but like if football was an even moderately sane business world or business model, it's actually done pretty well. Like they've built this amazing new stadium that will guarantee revenues going into the future and fix Tottenham as a major club.
Yeah.
And in fairness, you could scoff at it. They were going to be in the Super League. Like, I mean, they are on merit in a way a super club, and they haven't gone. I don't know if Tottenham were ever guaranteed that status. So, like, you know, Liverpool and Man United were always going to be guaranteed. If there was a Super League at any point in, you know, the history of English football, Liverpool and Man United would have been in it. Chelsea and Man City are in it now, thanks to their falling into wealth, shall we say. Like, if Tottenham were poorly managed, they would have gone the same way as Everton. Like, I mean, when the Premier League was formed, there was a big five of Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Everton and Tottenham. And like Everton have been farcically managed and are now kind of perennial relegation battlers, whereas Tottenham, through I think there's an element of good management
It's
about
very
it,
prudent.
Of getting them to where they are. And I think that, you know, Tottenham are 5th or 6th in the league or wherever on merit, or might end up there. Someone has to finish there because other clubs have more money than them and they can afford seemingly to spend while incurring massive losses. So look, obviously they've made big mistakes, but I don't agree with this idea that they're kind of a shambles.
Me neither. Erling Haaland, we should just touch on before we get into Republic of Ireland week. 42 in 37.
It's mad, isn't it? I saw the 42 goals thing and I thought, is that like a projected mark to the end of the season? And then you realise, oh my God.
Are we watching him now slip from 4th gear into 5th gear? Last couple of weeks,
It feels like that, and it feels like with Man City generally. I have to say, there's been various points of the season where we're waiting for Man City to go on their run, you know, when it comes into the season's end, and they just seem to go on 10, 11, 12 match winning runs. It feels like they've finally kicked into gear on that front. It feels like Man City are now adapting a little bit better to playing with him. They're basically passing him the ball, and it was it the second goal against Leipzig that kind of showed everything about him, in that he sprinted to press the goalkeeper knocked it long, then Akanji played it forward first time, which is not what City would always do, and Haaland was there battling to win the knockdown for, was it De Bruyne's volley off the crossbar, and Haaland had already turned and gone in to anticipate that ball coming off the crossbar to score, you know, an easy tap in. So there is something. I mean, the only thing that's not really spectacular about Haaland are his finishes, because they're all seemingly from 3 or 4 yards. But then watching him in general play, he's utterly spectacular. So I have seen he pulled out of the Norway squad this week with a slight groin issue, which was interesting timing, you have to say. But just extraordinary. And like, I assume he's going to be a shoe-in for Player of the Year. Like Saka and Odegaard, I think, are the other contenders. You watch Saka sometimes and you think, how can this guy not be Player of the Year, because the goals he scores are so spectacular, but just the numbers are crazy. Like, and he's doing them, you know, like Messi and Ronaldo reset the benchmark. It was Dixie Dean back in the 1940s, then Ronaldo and Messi. But the rate at which Haaland is scoring, especially in the Champions League, is actually at a rate better, certainly than those guys were at in the early part of their career. So it's just it's absolutely mind-boggling.
It is. 37 games isn't even fair. It's like, how many games did Pep haul him off after a hat-trick, you know?
And what was the line after Leipzig? It was just like, basically, there'll be no more worlds to conquer. It was just like, I'm sure Haaland doesn't agree.
Yeah. Pep was in funny humour that night. That was Julia Roberts.
That was Julia Roberts' gate, yeah. And Conte, in fairness to him, the absolute wind-up merchant that he is, also did mention, oh yeah, she came to Spurs as well.
I love that goal as well that you mentioned, the De Bruyne volley, because, I don't know, I mean, he's 2 or 3 yards the wrong side. I mean, the defender is goal side 2-3 yards when De Bruyne hits that shot. I just don't think most forwards are that bothered sprinting in on the 5% chance hits the crossbar and comes back to him.
Yeah, no, it's insane. And like, I guess it's redefining what for defenders, like what's good positioning and everything like that. I mean,
if you're playing Haaland, if De Bruyne is hitting a shot from 35 yards, you now have to go, oh Jesus.
Yeah, because
right, come on, let's go, Erling.
You always hear about guys like Mark Sykes was doing press yesterday he's talking about playing against City for Bristol, and it's just like, and he used the well-trodden line, it's just like, you switch off for a moment, they punish you. But Haaland has reset that again. That's not even switching off in a way, you know. You seem like, okay, you switch off, you lose your position where the ball is, you know, in play or whatever, but you just, you know, it's just completely redefines those that paradigm. So it's just it's been crazy to watch.
Yeah, it sure has. We have to talk Ireland. Latvia tomorrow, and then they play France. We're going to take a very short break. Our football show coverage is brought to you with thanks to Sky, where you can watch all the big Premier League games on Sky and BT Sport. We're taking a very short break. Back with Gavin Cooney, the 42, in just one moment.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live on Sky Sports.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch big games from the Women's Super League live on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk.
Now you're welcome back. Gavin Cooney, the 42, is with us. Ireland in action tomorrow against Latvia, friendly, and then France on Monday is looming large. Evan Ferguson, the news is, will start tomorrow. So that will be appearance number 3 in an Irish jersey, his first start. At 18 years of age now, said Stephen Kenny, he's showing he's ready to come into the team. He sure is. So it's been quite something to watch when the first murmurs of, he could start against France, I think. No, I mean, be sensible. And now here we are 5-6 days out, and his starting berth against France is not even a talking point anymore.
No, I don't really see any alternative. And he deserves to be there. You know, it's not just on reputation, and it's not just, you know, the national characteristic of wanting to see the new guy come in and you know, screw those 22-year-olds that we're sick of watching play. You know, bring in this new guy. He should play because he's the most likely to score. You know, and it's his. You know, he's obviously landed a great club for his development. Like, that's why it's probably why this is happening so quickly. So Kenny brought him in November into the squad. There was no clamour at that stage. Ferguson hadn't really broken through under De Zerbi at that point. He'd made a couple of appearances off the bench, I think, when Potter was the manager. But Kenny brought him in and said that, look, this guy could go on loan in January, could be playing in the Championship or somewhere, and then might deserve a call-up, so we should use this chance to assess him. So I don't think anyone really thought that he would be, you know, playing regularly for Brighton at Premier League level. The World Cup was obviously great for him. Clubs got an effective pre-season, and that was his first effective pre-season under Roberto De Zerbi, and his whole round game is developing there. Like, De Zerbi had great comments after the game against Grimsby at the weekend, talking about how, you know, how good Ferguson is, but how he needs to improve as well, because nowadays in the Premier League you've got to be a number 9 as a striker. You have to have those qualities in the last 20 metres of the pitch and around the penalty area, but you have to be able to drop in and play as a number 10 in midfield, and I think that's what he's learning. There was a really good piece. Did you see Monday Night Football? It was the start of this month. It was Brentford Fulham, I think we're playing, but Carragher did a piece on Brighton at the top, and the whole idea underpinning the piece was how good they are now under De Zerbi, and talked about their very modern, progressive style of play. Brighton actually have had a higher share of possession than anyone else in the Premier League since De Zerbi came in, more than Man City or Arsenal, which is kind of crazy. And he showed how they played when they, in build-up, played without a striker. Now, naturally, you know, I'm thinking, you're forgetting our boy there. You know, I've sharpened my pitchfork and lightened my torch at that point. But it's shown how the striker drops in and kind of plays in midfield, drops way off, because they got most of their goals through the wide players, like Matoma and Solly March. Like, Solly March is scoring goals at a rate he's never scored before. So Ferguson has to be able to drop into midfield, almost like a 4-2-4 in build-up, to be able to link the play. So the fact that he's developing all those strands to his game is so exciting, you know, and it's ideal for him. Yeah. And look, he's ready for Ireland. He absolutely looks ready.
Oh, he sure is. I dare say he had those attributes in advance of De Zerbi. Even when he was first starting to bubble away, anyone can do it. You go on YouTube and watch his highlight reel. I mean, a lot of his underage Ireland stuff is him dropping deep and turning provider. Yeah, well, I mean, look, and if Ferguson's Ireland career goes the way that we think it might, and hopefully it will, I mean, Dalymount Park, must have had like 200,000 people there. For the people who will say, I saw him play against Chelsea as a 14-year-old. But I did actually see him play against Chelsea as a 14-year-old. And you could see it even then, you know. I mean, Eric Molloy scored the equaliser in that game, and Ferguson made a pass then into Keith Ward, I think it was, and then ran off and like clever dummy on the edge of the box for Molloy. So even then, obviously, as a 14-year-old, he was showing those kind of, that awareness of space around him and people around him. His second goal, and again, health warning that it's Grimsby who aren't quite France. His second goal what you love about that is how in control of the situation he is, and he enjoys just how much time he has, and it's beyond routine. But I thought the first goal, where the first touch was at shoulder height, and then the speed at which the second touch happened into third. Now, regardless of opposition, that was just objectively eye-catching.
It was brilliant. He takes it so early, you know, and you see, like, this is not, I'm not directly comparing it, but the first thing I thought of actually was Mbappe's equaliser in the World Cup final, just that ability to take the ball early.
We're both getting carried away, because I said to Kenny that the first touch at shoulder height was, I just say, look, Kenny, you're going to laugh at me, but I mean, I thought it was Zidane. But that touch shoulder height, that's a Zidane thing.
And
I'm not saying Evan Ferguson.
And look,
Zidane.
you know, it's obviously Grimsby and he had loads of space in the penalty area, but he took that as if, you know, he had no space. You know, he didn't need a lot of space to execute what he did there.
Yeah.
And it was just this lovely fluid movement and just almost instinctual as well to take that finish so early. So it was brilliant. Look, it was absolutely brilliant. And he's proven himself. He scored against, well, Saliba now won't play for France, but he scored against him. He played really well up against Konate when they were playing for Liverpool, and Konate will play for France on Monday night. So look, he's got the all-round game. And he looks, you know, Ireland have created chances under Stephen Kenny. They just haven't been ruthless enough to finish them, you know, like we're all the way back to Martin O'Neill when he would lament the fact that, you know, Robbie Keane is too old and Robbie Keane is now retired. That's our problem. But
did Martin O'Neill say that? He did
once or twice, I think. Yeah. But like the problem was the team weren't creating chances that Robbie Keane in his prime would have tucked away. Like there were no chances to miss. Now there are chances to miss. Hopefully, like Troy Parrott away to Scotland is the obvious one. That 1-on-1. And they've never lost a competitive game by more than a goal. So, you know, the margins they've been massive mistakes in games, but in fairness, the margins have been relatively fine. So if Ferguson is as lethal around the penalty area as he has proven thus far, those margins might swing Ireland's way. And they'll have to. Look, for the campaign ahead, they'll have to.
I suspect to do what he's done in recent times, the answer here is very good. But what do we know of his temperament and the pressure of this week? You know, I always remember Kevin Kilban. He used to talk about how, in a weird way, even at Premier League level, especially like an Everton or a Sunderland, you're on match of the day and there's a certain scrutiny, but there's not really like this kind of heightened sense of pressure. And you come over to Ireland and it's like national media, all about those 11 jerseys. What are they going to do? All the build-up. You don't get that at club level, even in the Premier League, outside of the top 2, 3, 4 clubs. So he used to say, like, you know, because we would talk about how, you know, it seemed like you could express yourself a bit more and do a bit more on the ball at club level versus Ireland sometimes. And he said the thing that you just underestimate from the outside is the difference in pressure of club football versus playing in a green jersey. It's just heavier. So Evan Ferguson is being talked about way too much, guilty here as well, that I'm comfortable with for an 18-year-old, but such is life. So what do we know of his temperament?
I mean, so far you'd have to say his temperament is very impressive, in the sense that he obviously was in a Bohemians first team dressing room at 14, has taken to the Premier League like a duck to water. There doesn't seem to have been any issue there. His father was a professional footballer. I think his sister is a footballer as well. I mean, like, having those grounding influences around you is obviously a very good thing. But this is the highest, you know, this is a new level of pressure. And look, I mean, we talk so much about the calmness of the Irish rugby team. They were under a different kind of pressure at the weekend, and it did seem to get to them, but certainly in the first half at least. So you don't know how they'll handle it until they've proven that they can handle it, really. I don't know. I haven't heard anyone say that it's going to be an issue for him. Maybe it will prove so. I mean, this is the first week he's going to have to really handle it. There was a little bit of murmurings, obviously, when he was brought in November, but you know, there wasn't really pressure on there because the games didn't matter. Yeah. And he was, you know, it had been dampened down straight away when Stephen Kenny was talking about, you know, we're bringing him in ahead of schedule just to get a look at him. You know, we know it's out there now. He's going to play tomorrow. He's going to start tomorrow night.
That seems like a major plus, because the atmosphere on Monday is going to be extraordinary.
Yeah.
So just to go through the anthems tomorrow and do all that, get that out of the way for the first time, that's a big bonus.
That's probably is. That's a good point, because I was looking at it more from a, you know, why Stephen Kenny telling us this now, and I thought maybe it's not to sell the tickets because they've sold the tickets for tomorrow night. They sold it as a bundle with the France game, but maybe it's to make sure people use the tickets, and didn't just, well, sure, we'll tag on this game against Latvia because I really want to go see France. But that's a good point, actually. Just get him through all that, pageantry and etc. at the beginning. And look, he may partner him with the guy, whoever will play alongside him on Monday, and try and build cohesion from a strategy or an attacking point of view, or a tactical point of view. That's a good point, actually, just to get him used to that whole, rather than the France game being the very first. So look, temperament wise, there's been nothing to suggest that he won't handle it. But as you say, it's a new level of pressure.
Stop me when you get into TBC Bazunu.
This is for tomorrow now, or is it France? France, I think Bazunu will start.
Collins, Egan's, O'Shea.
Yeah, he'll stick with that, I would imagine. There's not really much concern about Collins not playing regularly for Wolves lately. Bamidele's the only person that might come in there. They like him. He has the pace, by the way, seemingly to deal with Mbappe.
He said as much.
10.4 metres per second.
Did he say I'd quite like to test myself against Mbappe?
Yeah, which is great. Like, great attitude. And he did say he's been clocked at 10.4 metres per second, which is, I found Mbappe was once clocked at 10.55, I think, or something, but was down to a meagre 9.8 at the World Cup at the winter. So maybe he'll have the pace, but he'll probably stick with those three.
Right wing back, the Doc.
I think so. Yeah, I think the Doc will start.
I feel sharp. I'm training all the time. I think sometimes when you're playing with top players all the time, that keeps you sharp. For me, it's not an issue because he's only had one substitute appearance.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he says his brain will be sharp as well, and it will have to be. And he'll start tomorrow night against Latvia, so to get some minutes into his legs. So he's a very important player for Ireland. I still think
his performance away to Scotland was
slow to stop that cross.
Like
that was the issue, wasn't it? And he wasn't. He was coming in not having played very regularly for Spurs. Into that, he played even less. He started against for Spurs against Arsenal in mid-January, and 16 minutes off the bench against Sevilla since. That's the sum of it, So,
and it is an area of the pitch where,
that's the main area.
It's tricky.
That's Mbappe's side. Assuming that Giroud will start, he'll play to the left, and Ireland will have to deal with that from a defensive point of view. But that's where they're vulnerable as well.
Not to quote him again, Kenny Cunningham was thinking Seamus.
Yeah.
In that Mbappe's faster than either of them.
Yeah.
And so Collins' experience alongside him effectively, if it's not quite a back five all game, it'll certainly be a back four depending on
Coleman
who
at
left
right
wing back is.
So Coleman at right wing back.
Right wing back, yeah.
And the only issue is Coleman has played the last two as far as I know, the last two times he's played right wing back, he's been injured subsequently, Coleman. Now one of them was in the summer against Armenia, and he'd been carrying a knock from the season into that. He played through the pain barrier for Everton at the end of the season, and it happened as well Portugal away the year before. Now I suppose he could play Doherty left wing back and Seamus on the right like he did away to Portugal. Not a bad idea, to be honest. And Coleman has been playing very well for Everton. Maybe right centre back is his home. I don't know. It's great to have options, and it is hard to leave out your captain, one of your few regulars in the Premier League, going into a game like this. So maybe we'll see it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Kenny had Doherty in the team. I think he was open to the O'Dowda suggestion at left wing back.
Yeah.
So it was McLean and Brady in the Armenia-Scotland games back in September. So the logic that O'Dowda gives you something going forward, it looms large, especially in Kenny's mind if you're going Coleman right wing back.
Yeah, no, I think it's O'Dowda or McLean at left wing back. Like guys like Manning and Brady have missed out on the squad because O'Dowda's been playing well and Stephen Kenny's eyes for Cardiff. So I think we might see O'Dowda there tomorrow night just to see how he goes.
One of those tricky ones where, and it happens a little bit with Irish squads, especially before any games. I dare say most of us haven't watched a ton of Cardiff, and so I would be lying if I told you I had a great feel for O'Dowda's form. So I don't know if you have a great feel.
I don't. I haven't seen them play much, to be honest. I know Stephen Kenny did describe him as Cardiff's Player of the Year so far, which is okay. France have Ballon d'Or contenders. We have Cardiff Player of the Year contenders, but so there. But Kenny Cunningham mentioning the prospect of Seamus Coleman, a right wing back, maybe he'll play Doherty on the left there, like he did it obviously away to Portugal last year. But
he did. I think Kenny, to be fair, was saying, well, we also do need to try and score a goal. So
I just think that's because Mbappe honestly doesn't defend. If you're at the game, it's actually hilarious to watch because the most spectacular thing about Mbappe is his speed from a standing start. But when you watch him in the flesh, you realise how committed he is to the standing start. Like, he does not track back. Doesn't even pretend to do it. So like, it's down that side behind him that Ireland might find some joy. So maybe that's where I'm thinking maybe Doherty. But I'm losing confidence in it now, I have to say.
Cullen back in?
Cullen will definitely. I don't think they'll play him tomorrow night, but he'll definitely play against France. He's probably the most irreplaceable player in that team.
I have a slight concern. And look, to be fair, this is Mbappe, so you have this concern with everybody. So Mbappe gets the ball, standing start, be it Coleman or Doherty, he chops inside there, and then it's Cullen. I'm not sure if Cullen has the mobility to handle that at all. I do have my worries. Like, I'm hoping if Molumby starts, he's a touch more over to the right hand side to really snap at Mbappe, because I can see Mbappe cruising past Cullen just by dint of size and physicality.
No, Molumby probably will be there, but it will fall on. It'll fall to Collins pretty quickly. Like, it will be a back three there, so
he'll have to step in.
Yeah, I mean, he really will.
And Mbappe chops back left, and suddenly he's in between.
I mean, look, he can beat them all.
That's the problem,
because he's so good. I think Cullen has to play. He's the only player that.
But he'll need a lot of help.
Defensively, he absolutely will. That's why.
That's Molumby's in.
I think the midfield. Where are we at? Midfield 3. So it'll be Cullen, Molumby, probably Jason Knight or Jeff Hendrick. I think. I mean, Knight maybe. Hendrick. The only thing is, Ireland will need height on set pieces because France can kill you any which way. Like, I mean, they've got massive height from set pieces. Like, this is one of the things that if teams want to sit in deep against them, they'll just pick them off. Griezmann's delivery is ridiculous, and they've got massive height in the team. If Giroud plays, definitely with Rabiot and the centre backs as well.
Hendrick's been genuinely quite good a lot for Ireland over the last year. What I kind of imagine Knight really contributing is France are going to spend a lot of time in Ireland's half. Knight, when he gets the ball, he can beat a man and carry it. Yeah. In a way that Hendrick can't. Hendrick doesn't have the legs. Now, Hendrick can play a pass, to be fair to him, when he's in the mood, but I can imagine Knight, on occasion, Ireland maybe do nick the ball occasionally, and he can at least carry and then maybe play a pass. So I'd have the youth of Knight in there, because it's going to be hard for Ireland to pass France off the pitch when they get it. So a bit of individual something is important. And we don't have many ball carriers.
They're not going to, it's a good point, because they're not going to pass France off the pitch because France are the better players, and they're like, it will be a counter-attacking game plan.
That's where you can see Knight making runs.
Yeah, and the template is probably Portugal away, in 2021. And back then it was the front three of Ida, Jamie McGrath and Aaron Connolly. So it was like McGrath tucking into midfield basically.
That's right.
And Connolly at that time was the only forward with pace that we had. Now, in fairness to Kenny, he's built up depth to the point where no one's worried about Connolly not being in the squad now. Because then you've got Ferguson up front, and I think you partner him with one of the speedsters in either Ogbene or Obafemi. If I was going to guess, I'd guess Ogbene, just because.
Oh, would you?
Yeah, I don't know. This is not any kind of insider knowledge. This is just guessing. Yeah. But he's got the pace to trouble France in behind, and he's played right wing back for Rotherham, so that makes me think maybe he'll be a little bit more defensively aware if he wants to drop off slightly to the right and into midfield when Ireland don't have the ball, and then because that's like, not to be repeating myself, the space will be down France's left. Mbappe won't defend, and the left backs are either Theo Hernandez, who had like the nightmare of all nightmares in a World Cup final, and it's just not great defensively, or Camavinga. Like, Camavinga's a midfielder, but he's listed as a left back for this squad. So that makes me think that maybe he'll pick Ogbene, and I just got this perception that Ogbene has more stamina than Obafemi. Obafemi's a great option to have off the bench.
Yeah. What is the word on our French friends? What's going on in their camp?
Will we get away with more discord in the French camp? So, look, there was these anonymous quotes reported in Le Figaro and maybe in L'Equipe as well today that Griezmann is very unhappy about being overlooked for the captaincy for Mbappe. Mbappe, obviously Hugo Lloris was the captain, has retired, and so now 24-year-old Mbappe is the captain and Griezmann is the vice captain. So there were these reports today that Griezmann is so unhappy that he might quit the squad. Now, it doesn't seem that he has quit the squad. And look, maybe this is... Because Griezmann is he's a real contradiction in the sense that I've never seen such a variance between a player's off-field behaviour and perception and his on-field performances. Like, off the field, he's an absolute diva. Like, I mean, he's thrown his toys out of the pram over things. He's had that bizarre video where he was announcing he was going to Barcelona. His hairstyles, obviously. So he's a diva off the pitch, and then he works like a domestique on it. I mean, his work he's like he sacrifices himself totally for that team. So yeah, I'll cling to straws if Robin de Griezmann will walk out Saipan style.
He was so good
on the
at that
squad.
World Cup.
He's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and like honestly, his set piece delivery is frightening. Like, I mean, but say Deschamps' great genius of this job is to been able to manage that dressing room. Because I did a piece for the 42 at the weekend with our old pal Raymond Dominic, and now look, he got a particularly tough squad to deal with.
Was Raymond Dominic the one who was really into astrology?
Yeah, he was into astrology, yeah.
To the point it might impact on team selections?
Yeah, that was overplayed, it seems.
Okay.
He did...
I hope so.
He had this... Dominic has this habit of trying to crack jokes that are not really at appropriate times and kind of make people feel slightly uncomfortable. And he did this with the astrology thing, because the French press seemingly were kind of out to get him. In his view... Go on.
I was just going to say, I always really like that quality in a person.
Oh, really?
I love someone who makes terrible jokes at the wrong time. And
but don't become a national football manager, because you'll be hung by those headlines for the rest of your career. So it seems like he did say, like, he was being barraged by questions over why are you not picking Mikel Silvestre?
Yeah.
And he said, he's a Leo. He eventually just gave up. He's a Leo. You can't have too many Leos in your defence. Anyway, so he had a mad French dressing room around the 2010 World Cup after Thuram and the last of the leaders of the 98 squad went. But coming up to that World Cup anyway, just researching for that interview, he wrote in his book, he republished part of his diary from that 2010 World Cup, and his entry the night before their first game, having watched Flora Malouda, who he had left out of the starting team, clattering into some of the guys he had included in the starting team, was I am so sick of this. You know, my team talk for tomorrow night should be just go F yourselves. Sadly didn't say it, but that's a very roundabout way of saying that Deschamps has done a very fine job, unlike Dominic, in managing the egos in that dressing room. Because look, it's one of the most talented dressing rooms we've ever seen in international football. If you're that good a footballer, you're going to have an ego. It comes with the business. And Deschamps has always managed to figure out the issues that he's encountered.
Well, in some respects, you would have to say the absence of Pogba and Kante, absolute nightmare. And look, Griezmann had shown an ability to drop deep anyway. But I remember just chatting to Philippe Auclair, and he's not Deschamps' biggest fan by any means. But we were chatting, he was saying, look, you have to say, what is an international manager? Well, you've very few games. Your instincts have to be spot on in terms of the way you set out the team and where you play players. And he had this massive problem on the eve of the World Cup, and he just adroitly looked at Griezmann and said, in you go there. This is what I want you to do. Convinced him to do it. He did it with aplomb. And you kind of have to go, well, that's a manager.
Yeah, no, and that's, there is a different skill set between being a great club manager and a great international manager.
Yeah, he didn't have 10 games to figure it out.
You just have to be able to improvise at the time, and I think maybe Stephen Kenny's learned that as he's gone along as Ireland manager. Playing a back three would have been anathema when he first took the job, but he's realised that's probably the best for the set of players that I have at my disposal. So yeah, Deschamps has proved himself to be not universally loved in France. Certainly it seemed like Zidane was everyone wanted Zidane as his replacement. It hasn't quite happened.
Now that you mention Griezmann, and let's presume he's going to get over the loss of captaincy, he was so influential. I remember the England game, the first half hour, he was phenomenal, to the point where, are you saying to Evan Ferguson or Obafemi or Bene, you're going to man-mark Griezmann as well? I mean, Evan, we really need you to score a goal or two against France, but you're also going to have to man-mark Griezmann. But you can't give Griezmann the freedom in the centre circle.
No, you can't, because he's too creative. Argentina did a very good job in shutting him down.
Did they man-mark him?
I need to look back and see what they did, because Griezmann was pretty anonymous, having been maybe one of France's best players of the tournament so far. But Argentina as well, everyone expected them to attack behind Mbappe's wing, so Scaloni flipped Di Maria from the right to the left, and had him run at Jules Koundé instead, who's a centre back stationed a right back that no one had tested up to then, and it worked brilliantly for them. So I need to look back and see what they did around Griezmann, but they definitely put him in check. But the problem is, you can man mark Mbappe, but also man mark Griezmann, and then but don't let Giroud run off you for a corner, and you'll have Colm Muani on the right wing as well, who's one of the top scorers in the Bundesliga. They're actually stacked.
It's insane. I saw Mbappe captain at 24, 66 caps already.
Yeah.
24.
Yeah.
Is there talk of a defensive injury crisis, or is that overblown?
Well, they're definitely missing players. If you're going to call it a crisis, maybe it's a little bit overblown. Obviously, Varane has retired. Kimpembe is injured of PSG. Fofana of Chelsea and Salima of Arsenal are out as well.
Okay.
So they still have Konate of Liverpool and Upamecano of Bayern. They play together at Leipzig. So they're used to playing together.
Okay. And
they're both individually very good. But after that, then you might be struggling, in fairness. They might have to, if one of them were to get injured, and both of them are injury prone, definitely Konate is, and they have to come through a game against the Dutch on Friday, I suppose you could play Koundé at centre back and bring Pavard in at right back. So they're also obviously missing Lucas Hernandez, who's a much more defensively solid option at left back. But they're depleted in numbers, but is it anything that we can clutch to? I don't think so.
It is going to just be an amazing occasion. I can't wait for it. A final thought, what kind of occasion will tomorrow be?
I'm hoping it'll be a bit livelier now with confirmation that Ferguson is going to play. I wouldn't be expecting fireworks tomorrow night.
Close to the starting 11, do you think, for Monday? Or?
No, I don't think so. I think he'll play Ferguson, obviously. He'll play the guys who will start on Monday who need minutes on their legs. Doherty definitely. Okay. Collins maybe. Otherwise, it'll be like the likes of Cullen and Egan. These guys I don't think will play at all. And then you'll see guys there'll be a few kind of 50-50 calls who'll get to make their pitch. So I think maybe we'll see O'Dowd at left wing back to show me what you can do to earn a spot ahead of James McLean. So something along those lines. If being brutally honest, if Stephen Kenny had been offered take this friendly or take a full week in the training ground and no friendly at all, I think he might have taken the latter. This is, contractually they have to find friendlies to play, so they found Latvia. Latvia agreed to play very early in the week. Wednesday is very early in the week to be playing. Like Latvia's qualifier isn't until Tuesday, this day week against Wales. So just to get it out of the way and get working in the training ground.
Okay, I think you're in Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So the post-mortem or celebration will be full flow.
How do you see? How are you feeling about it? Because obviously, as it comes closer now, I'm feeling a lot more positive about it. But is this some kind of delusion that I need ahead of the new campaign?
No, I wouldn't be positive.
We were having a fight in the 42 podcast. What percentage chance would you give Ireland of finishing the top two in this group?
I don't know. I don't know what mood France are in post World Cup, and I suspect losing a World Cup final takes a toll for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll have all of the enthusiasm that you might expect. But I don't know. I half mentioned last night to Kenny the manner in which they found a way to lose that Scotland game, and then the Armenia, the 5 minutes of madness. This is now a very road-tested group under management team that have been there a while. We don't still feel battle-hardened. We don't still feel like a group that won't do something frustrating.
That Armenia, blowing that lead against Armenia, and I know they won the game.
Yeah,
that shook a lot of people's faith. That was the game to close out, and it was just like, look, we've been here now, lads. Yeah. We know how to do this. So I would accept that.
There's a degree of well, if not now, when?
Yeah,
about that. And look, of course, there's the enthusiasm. Here we go, start of a campaign. So for sure, and I think the atmosphere will be incredible, and I wouldn't discount what that will do to the Irish players. So I think they'll work like maniacs.
Yeah,
and I don't think it will be God, look, presuming they don't score early, but I don't think it will be a scoreline that we shudder at. But I just think France will nick it and will turn it on when they need to. And invariably they're not going to be as fired up as Ireland, just only human. But as for the campaign on a whole, okay, it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah,
and that's why in 8 months' time, it'd be tricky to say, well, what does this tell us about Stephen Kenny?
Yeah, no, I don't think we should maybe look at it through that lens, although maybe it's inevitable that we will. But I don't know, maybe it's because I'm just getting ready to kind of cover the full campaign, and maybe it's a slight sense of delusion that we can do this. I do find myself in a slight kind of pre-Euro 2012 bargaining phase. It was just like, look, okay, we'll lose to Spain, so Spain being the equivalent of France away.
Yeah.
But we finished ahead of the Dutch before 0-2.
This is true. By the way, they have a good free kick routine, which we need to be ready for. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's pretty tasty. Listen, you're buoyed by the anticipation of Augusta. So like you're starting to smell the roses.
Well, I think the azaleas. I think is how they're officially referred to. Joe. No, look,
here's a tip: not the mob, the patrons. If you're writing about them. Our football show coverage brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Gav, enjoy the week covering Camp Ireland for the 42, and let's chat Tuesday after Ireland France.
Perfect.
Thanks so much.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk.